This is book number 2, numbers 23 through 45. For number 23, it says the figure below is made of unit cubes. How many unit cubes need to be added to the figure so that it will have a total volume of 12 cubic units? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 now. For you to get 12, you need 4, because 8 plus 4 gives us 12. So the answer would be letter C, 4. 24. The operation symbol and the exponent are missing in the equation shown below. Which operation and exponent should go in the boxes to make the equation true? So we know it would be 7,320, and then eventually becomes 0.0. So it's going to be division. So that will get rid of A and C. The reason why it's division is because it's decimal, it needs to go to the left, because it needs to get smaller, so that's the way we would divide. And then it needs to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course 5. So it would be the letter D. You would divide it, and then you move it to 10 to the power of 5, which is 5 times to the left. For number 25, it says a square and a rhombus are shown. So a rhombus is like a square, but it's just been sideways. So they all have 4 equal sides. All the sides are equal. The only difference is that a square has 4 right angles. That makes 90 degrees. And a rhombus doesn't have any right angles. Which attribute is true of one of the shapes but not of both? All angles are right angles. Well, that is true for the square, but not for the rhombus. That looks good. B, all sides are the same length. Well, that is true, but it says which attribute is true of one of the shapes but not both. So that's true for both. We don't want that one. See, there are 2 sets of equal angles. That's true for both, because this side is equal, that side is equal, and of course opposite sides are equal. There are 2 sets, that is true for both, so only one that's true for only one of them is A. All angles are right angles. That's only for the square, because we know that rhombuses do not have any right angles. And a right angle makes 90 degrees. So when you see that little square, that tells you that's a right angle. 26. Point K is shown on the number line below. Which number sentence best describes the value represented by the point K? Well, that's 10. This is point 11. This is point 12. So it's right there between, here, let me go and erase that. It's between point 11 is right there, and that's point 12. So it's going to be point 11 right there, 115. Because you want to put a 0, that'll make it 1110. This will be 120. So it'll be in the middle. So is it true that K is greater than 0.13? Nope. B, is it less than 13? Yes. C, is K equals 0.15? Nope. And is K 0.35? That's not even possible. 0.35 would be all the way over here. So it would be B. B is less than 13. Because that's 12. This would be 13 right there. And definitely smaller than that. 27. The table below shows the distance some players hit a softball. So Amalia hits 36 inches, Nick hit it for 6 feet, and Lila hit it for 108 inches. Pablo hit the softball 2 yards. Which player or players hit the softball the same as Pablo? So pretty much we have to convert which of these is the same thing as 2 yards. Well, we know a yard is 3 feet. Or we can say that a yard is 36 inches. So we gotta find it. And then 2 yards is really 6 feet, because each yard is 3 feet. So we know that's be 6 feet, and we know that it's also 36 times 2, because there's 36 inches per yard, and there's 2 yards. So we know it'll be 72 inches for 2 yards. So we know this one is wrong. It's supposed to be 72 inches, not 36. That would be only for 1 yard. Nick is 6 feet, so that's good, because that's the same thing as that. So far, Nick is the same. And Lila is wrong, because it should be 72 and is 108. So it's just Nick, which is letter B. 28. The line plot below shows the length of all the pieces of string Emma used for an art project. She cut all of these pieces from one original piece of string. Emma had 1 foot of string left over. How long in feet was the original piece of string? So you have to find the total of all these first. So we know it will be 1/8 because there's one x up the top. Then it will be, let me erase this real quick so I can see better. Then it will be 2/4 4 times, so it's 2/4, 2/4, 2/4, 2/4 4 times. Then it'll be 5/8 one time, and then it'll be 3/4 2 times, 3/4, 3/4. Then it'll be 7/8 one time. Let's combine things to make whole. 1/8 and 7/8 makes 1. We got 2/4, 2/4, which is really half and a half. That's 1. 2/4, 2/4. That's a half and half. That's 1. Let's see here. We have 5/8 plus 3/8 is really, let me see. We have to make them the same. So 3/4 is really times 2 times 2, 6/8. So we can do, that's 6/8 right there, and we have 2 of them, so that's another 6/8. And then we have the 5 from here. So we know that'll be 6 plus 6 is 12, and 12 plus 5 is to be 17/8, and that's really 2 because it's 17, and 8 can go into 17 2 times, and then you'll have 1/8. So then we know that'll be 2, and then 1/8. So we know the total is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 and 1/8, and because she had 1 left over, so it'll be actually 6 and 1/8. So the answer would be the letter D. So what we did is we wrote down all the numbers from the line plots. We grouped them together to make one wholes. With the 5/8, the 3/4 and 3/4, we made them all into 8, and that gave us 17/8. We divided 17/8, which is really 2 and 1/8. We added all together to give us 5 and 1/8, and we added one more whole because it says she had 1 foot of string left over. So the original one must be 6 and 1/8. For 29, it says, for which values of k would the product of k over 3 times 12 be greater than 12? So if it's k over 3 times 12, if you wanted to make it to have an answer that's bigger than 12, then this must be an improper fraction. So it has to be a number that is bigger than 3. If it was exactly 3, it will stay the same. And if it was less than 3, like a 1/3, it will get smaller. And even a 2/3 will get smaller. So k has to be bigger than 3. For any values of k less than 1 but greater than 0, that's wrong. For any value of k less than 3 but greater than 1, nope. For any value of k is equal, nope. For any value of k greater than 3. It has to be greater than 3 because that will give us an improper fraction, and anything times more than 1 would be greater than the original number. Skipping 30 and 31, 32. Each day last week, Miss Wilson walked 3/4 mile. What is the total distance in miles that Miss Wilson walked in 4 days? So it's pretty much 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. Or you could just do 3/4 times 4. Either one works. That will give us 12/4, and 12 divided by 4, it would be 3. And that would be the letter C. For 33, a right rectangular prism is shown below. The volume of the prism is determined using unit cubes. Which statement describes how to determine the volume? Well, you would do 4 times 3 times 2. So it won't be add. It won't be add again. C, determine the area of the base and add the number of layers. Or would it be determine the area of the base and then multiply? And that's 4 times 3 times 2. So it will be the letter D. Because 4 times 3 is called the base or the area. That's 12. And then you would do 12 times 2. And that's what D is telling us to do. Alright. 36. What is the volume of the cube shown below? So it's 1 times 1 times 1. So it'll be 1A. 37. During a hike, 3 friends equally shared 1/2 pound of trail mix. What is the amount of trail mix in pounds that each friend received? A lot of students will do this. They'll do 3 divided by 1/2, and they'll get 6, and they'll say the answer is letter D. That's wrong. You're not splitting up the friends. You're splitting up the 1/2 pound of trail mix into 3 friends. So that'll be keep, change, flip. It'll be 1/6. And the answer will be A. 41. Which expression has a value greater than 1/2? Well, if you multiply by times 5, it'll stay the same. If you multiply by 4 over 4, it stays the same. If you multiply by 4/5, it gets smaller, so the one that is greater is be the letter D. Because that's an improper fraction, so therefore your answer will have a greater value. 42. A science teacher has 0.4 liter of seawater. She gives each of her 22 students a container and a 5mm spoon. She then asks her students to put 2 spoonfuls of seawater into their containers. How many milliliters of seawater will be left after? Okay, so pretty much there's 22 kids, and each one needs to fill it up with 10 millimeters. The reason why I got 10 is a spoon holds 5, and she asked her students to put 2 spoonfuls. So that's why it's 5 times 2 to give you 10 milliliters. And I know the answer to this would be 22 and add a 0. So you need 220 milliliters. Now we gotta convert the 0.4 liters to milliliters. So King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. You're at L. L is mLg, which is called the base. And you're trying to get to milliliter. So it's 1, 2, 3. So it'll be 3 times to the right. So it's 1, 2, 3. So it'll be 400. And then the students use 220. So it'll be 440 minus 220. And we'll get 220 left. Oops, sorry. I don't know why I did 440. Should be just 400. So it's 400 minus 220. That'll be 0. This will be 3. 10 minus 2 is 8. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So it's 180, which is B. So once again, we did 22 kids times 10 milliliters because every spoon is 5 and you need 2 spoonfuls for every kiddo. So that's 220 milliliters. And then we converted 0.4 liters to milliliters by moving the decimal 3 times to the right. And that gives us 400. So we did 400 minus 220. And we have 180 milliliters left. Let's move on to the next one. 43, what's the value? Well, we'll do keep, change, flip. So the answer would be 1 over, and then all I have to do now is do 25 times 74. I know D is wrong. I know C cannot be 74. And I know B is wrong, so it has to be A. So it'll be 1 over 8,550 without really doing the math. Number 44. Which phrase best describes a figure with dimensions of 2 by 2 by 4 and a volume of 16 cubic units? So 2 by 2 by 4. We know that will be 4 times 4, and that's 16. So is it a solid figure that can be filled with 16 cubes that each measure 1 cubic unit? Yep. A solid figure that can be filled with 1 cube that measures 16 units on each edge? Nope. That would be way too big. C, a solid figure that can be covered with 16 squares? No, we're not talking about squares because this is 3D. D, a solid figure that can be covered with 1 square that measures? No. So it'll be A. You would fill it up with 16 cubes. And each one is 1 by 1 by 1. And lastly, 45. Susan determined that the expression below is equal to 7.59. Well, all she needs to do is go backwards. So let's go and solve for it. Well, if she did it correctly, all she has to do is pretty much add that number and that number together, and it should give her back 15.91. So let's go ahead and do the math. Let's see what she gets. 11 minus 2 would be 9. 8 minus 3 is going to be 5. Borrow, that's 17 minus 8. Or say, 15 minus 8, which is 7. So if you want to check your work, you would add that back up to 8.32. And you'll get your answer. So that one would be letter B.